Mr. Ambassador, let me bring you in first, if I may. The United Nations says a full-scale humanitarian crisis is underway in northern Tigray. There are harrowing reports from civilians who fled. What are government troops doing?
Well, the government, of course, is responding swiftly in order to make sure that the necessary steps are taken to avail humanitarian access and protection to civilians. This situation, this unfortunate situation, was imposed on us after the brutal and treacherous killings of our soldiers and officers in the Northern Command by the TPLF junta. So this situation is really unfortunate. We are working speedily to make sure that everything on the ground gets running and humanitarian relief is delivered. And as you well know, the situation now is changing rapidly, with many areas being liberated. Once these are secure, humanitarian relief can enter, and of course, our people also can return back to their homes, and the normal course of life can take hold.
Yeah, and I want to give Mr. Solomon a chance to respond to that, but just before I do, you say you're doing everything you can in the Ethiopian government to protect civilians, to provide humanitarian support. If that is the case, why has your government imposed a communications blackout, making it impossible for journalists to verify what's going on the ground?
The communication blackout was imposed by the TPLF junta itself. You may recall that when they attacked our bases, the federal forces bases in the north, treacherously, they said themselves that they cut the communications and electricity. So it's not us who cut communications. But having said that, there's no point in belaboring this matter. The most important thing is that humanitarian relief gets there. Everything is being undertaken by the government to make sure that it gets there. And we are very much hopeful with the progress on the ground that this can be done very quickly.
All right, Mr. Solomon, let me bring you on that. The ambassador there saying they're doing everything they can to protect civilians, and in fact that it is the Tigray forces that have cut communications. What's your response?
I think that's that's not true. What's happening right now on the ground is actually not only a civil war, but it's transforming itself into kind of ethnic cleansing, genocide, declare population, humanitarian assistance. Workers are denied access to the region. We have now around 30,000 Ethiopians from Tigray escaped violence and crossed the border to Sudan. They don't have shelter, no food, no basic needs are provided. So it's really difficult. A Nobel Peace Prize winner, dictator in Ethiopia, unelected since October 5, 2020, is now leading his country to, kind of a civil war. On top of that, he's declaring genocide against an entire population of Tigray, and he's unleashing all his forces, all his allies. He has the Amhara militia, the Amhara special force. He actually also has the Eritrean government support and drone attacks from the United Arab Emirates. So what's happening right now is actually very different from what the ambassador tried to claim.
All right, Mr. Solomon, you've made a lot of claims there. I will give the ambassador a chance to respond, but just before I do, I want to make it very clear. You're not denying, though, that the Tigrayan forces are themselves committing atrocities on the ground. Witnesses talking about an incident on November the 9th where they say Tigrayan forces were slaughtering civilians. And so if I may, not right now, but when you can, if you have some headphones, that'd be great. There's a bit of an echo on your line.
Right.
Mr. Solomon, Mr. Solomon, I was asking you. You made a lot of allegations that I will put.
That's not, the allegations are not supported by practice. What has happened in that certain village of Maikadra is a communal clash. Actually, most of the deaths are from the Tigray side. when the troops, the special force of Tigray left the village, and before the military took over, there was a gap in between. And then the Amhara forces took this opportunity and slaughtered a lot of Tigrayans before they fled to Sudan. It was a communal clash. It was a clash between communities with different ethnic backgrounds. It was not committed by a certain army or group. So that's what I can tell you. I have been monitoring. I have been following the situation on the ground since we have contacts there. It's close to the border of Sudan. We've been using Sudanese number to contact people. What they have told us is actually different from what the government is trying to claim.
Well, let me bring the ambassador
propaganda.
back in on that, if I may. I'm sorry to cut across you, but we don't have a lot of time. Mr. Ambassador, suggestions there that actually the Tigray forces may not have been involved in crimes on the ground. What's your response to what you've been hearing?
It's really sad and very unfortunate. I mean, you can have a right to your own opinion, but you cannot have a right to your own facts. And the facts are known. The facts as established by Amnesty International itself, which cannot be accused of being pro-government. Amnesty interviewed witnesses. These witnesses, multiple witnesses, were very clear. There were attacks committed by the fleeing TPLF forces, the defeated TPLF forces, before fleeing, massacred people, not using bullets, but using atrocious means to slaughter their own compatriots. This, in any form, cannot be acceptable in any civilized country. So please, let's not enter into unnecessary debates and falsehoods. This has been clearly established. It will be investigated, and believe me, it will also be prosecuted, and those responsible will be brought in front of a court of law. This cannot be acceptable in any case.
Mr. Ambassador, though, let me ask you a little bit about the blocking of roads inside the Tigray region. I know you've already said that there are plans to bring in food for those in need, but at the moment, why is food and medicine being prevented from getting into the region? I understand borders there have been closed since the 4th of November.
Well, it's, first of all, the areas have to be secure. Secondly, as you know, and as was reported, the TPLF junta is purposely destroying infrastructure in order to stop the advance of our troops. But as I said, we are well now on progress to making sure that food and aid is delivered. That will be delivered very quickly. And as the situation stabilizes, and especially as the operations winds up, which we believe will wind up in a couple of days, things will get back to normal.
A couple of days, does that strike you as a realistic timeline, Mr. Solomon, based on the people that you are able to speak to on the ground?
Actually, first I want to comment on what the ambassador was trying to claim. That's also very false. But actually, our witnessing is a genocide declared on entire population. He was telling us that the people in Tigray are not denied access to aid, but that's not true. What we have actually are trying to get information from the capital Addis. Tigrayan, ethnic Tigrayans are expelled from all federal offices. They are expelled from civil aviation. They are expelled from security and intelligence. They are ethnically targeted, profiled. The government has been also seeking, expulsion of ethnic Tigrayans from different UN agencies, including the WFP. On top of this, now it's almost becoming very difficult to live in the country in Ethiopia as a Tigrayan. You are not allowed. If you are a Tigrayan, you are not allowed to live in the country. We have more than 51,000 civilians arrested in Addis and surrounding. So what the ambassador was trying to do is actually a propaganda mission that has been given by the government to all of the diplomats.
All right, Mr. Solomon, if I may, you've made that allegation that genocide is already being committed in the Tigray region. Can I ask you very straightforwardly, though, given that the communications have been cut, whether that is by the Tigrayan forces or by the government forces. How are you able to make an allegation of genocide if we're not able to speak to people on the ground?
Well, we have people who have fled Ethiopia, the Tigray region. They crossed border to Sudan. We have communication with these people. They are using Sudanese number, and we are also trying to use, we are trying to collect information from journalists, from the international media, that an entire population is choked up and denied any access to humanitarian assistance. That tells you a lot. So regarding the disconnection of telephone and internet, actually this scenario is not a new, this phenomena is not a new practice with regard to the federal government. It had disconnected internet telecom service in previous times. For example, if you remember, following the assassination of the famed Oromo artist Hachalu Hundessa, the entire nation was disconnected from telecom internet service. Now we have telecom, phone service, and electricity disconnected. These all services are provided by the federal government, but now Tigray is not receiving all these services.
All right, well, let me bring the ambassador back in on that. I'll give you a chance to respond to that, Mr. Ambassador, but I also want to ask you, as we don't have a lot of time left, you are the official representative of the Ethiopian government here in France. Abiy Ahmed, your prime minister, has been much celebrated on the international stage in the last year. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace. Is Ethiopia's image on the world stage about to change, and significantly for the worse?
I don't think so. I think, to the contrary, Ethiopia's image and the Prime Minister's image will be greatly enhanced once this operation is over. You have to understand what took place in Ethiopia on November 5th. What took place in Ethiopia is basically an act of murder against people who were not expecting it, some of them in their sleep. What would a French citizen say, madam, if you had people attacking a French police station, seizing the weapon, killing the policemen inside? Would you call for a negotiation with those who are the assailants? I don't think so. Well, so really, we have to be very reasonable and very, very... Well, let me finish. I let Mr. Alula finish. Let's let
the ambassador finish, Mr. Solomon. I will give you a chance to reply shortly.
We have to be very clear about what happened. This government was very patient when the TPLF went, the TPLF leadership in particular, went out of its way to basically to derail the political democratization process in the country. We also know that the TPLF was behind.
Mr. Solomon, I will let you speak very shortly.
2.5 years, trying to destabilize the government. All that the government tolerated. But a red line, a big red line, was crossed when they came out and killed cold-blooded killings of people who were there to protect the region, who were there to protect the country's sovereignty.
All right,
this is unacceptable.
Mr. Ambassador,
by any means.
Thank you very much
and
indeed. We are running out of time.
That because you also hold in high regard your own military.
I want to give Mr. Solomon a chance to respond because we don't have a lot of time. Mr. Solomon, it's clear you have things that you want to say. Tell me briefly, if you can, what's your response?
Okay, the ambassador cannot justify the killings in different parts of the country. It's not only in Tigray. People are killed. Even recently, 2 days ago, 7 people are killed in Wolaga, in the Oromia region. The military, the army have been killing civilians in every part of the country under the name of special command posts. So he cannot justify army attack for, civil war, for unleashing the force on entire population, committing genocide on entire population. You cannot bring army attack as a justification for all these atrocities that have been committed by dictator Abiy across all
Mr.
parts
Alula Solomon, thank you very much indeed. Mr. Ambassador Hanuk Tefera, thank you very much as well. We are unfortunately going to have to leave it there. Clearly, there's a lot to still discuss.